Hello everyone, I'm going to talk Vita today, and boy do we have a lot to talk about, and it's going to be quite a bit of detail, so fasten your seatbelts, it could be a bumpy ride. But before that, I just wanted to do something a bit fun. I got a few items in over the last few weeks and months, and I thought I'd just share with you what has arrived, not just Vita related, but mainly. So I'll start off with letting you know that the latest book by Sandeep about the Vita arrived. That is the third and final book in his trilogy about the Vita, its history, its life, and I suppose you'd have to say the eventual demise. Like all Sandeep's books, it's beautifully produced, and I'll just show you quickly what's available in the content. There's a very good foreword by Colin Moriarty, whom many of you will know as a staunch supporter of the Vita. And Sandeep covers, I'll just show you the content here, the story, the last years of the Vita. He includes a lot of topics, also hacking. So there is a wide variety there to interest people who are into the Vita. The book is throughout beautifully illustrated with high quality images, and I'm really looking forward to reading it and enjoying it as we are enjoying I suppose, the final years of the Vita. The book came because it's a Kickstarter, this project of the Vita books. It came with a Vita magazine that Sandeep himself prepared as a bit of a thank you to the community, and that's really nice to have. Sandeep, with a really cute pixel portrait there, he collected or compiled his favorite 100 Vita games. And that in itself is, of course, a really nice, interesting read. It's always fun reading what other people rate very highly and what gave them a lot of enjoyment. The zine also includes the top 100 games as voted by the Vita community. Not surprisingly, look which game got the #1 spot. Obvious, really, that's obvious. He conducted a poll online on Twitter, and many people participated, and that's how the top 100 were compiled. So in honor of the Vita and of the top #1 game, I'm wearing today my new P4G T-shirt, complete with my enamel pin. And we have some more enamel pins because, well, you may have noticed I really like my enamel pins. So I got some more beautiful ones from Jessica, Alchemist Candy. She did one inspired by World of Final Fantasy, and another one inspired by farming sim games on the Switch. That's really cute, and as always they're beautifully done and just a delight to have. I took a punt and got 2 Persona 5 pins. I'm really pleased with them. That's of course the bus, the Morgana bus, and here's Morgana herself. And Morgana is of course now completely puffed up with her own importance that she's got her own enamel pin. So maybe that was a bad move, I don't know. These books I featured in a previous video. They are the PlayStation Vita Year 1 and Years 2 and 3, which are book 1 and 2 in the trilogy. So I've put them out here for you so you can see how it all connects up. I will put details in the description below of everything I'm talking about today, so you don't have to worry. I will put links to the website where the book is available. I asked Sandeep and he said to me he still has a handful of copies left of the Year 3 book. So if you missed out and still want to grab one, probably a good idea to do it soon. So I'll put the link in the description below. So that's covered those particular goodies. Very briefly, we're shifting away from PlayStation, and I just want to show you I bought a DSi XL. It's obviously a second-hand one. It's not in mint condition, but reasonable. And I put Pokemon Pearl in it so I can play a bit in between. Because, as you know, I'm a big fan of the 3DS and DS, and don't worry, that project is ongoing. I just have to find time in between to work on it. I was inspired to get a DSi XL because I've never had one before, and a very interesting video by Erica Griffin made me want to snag one. There are certain differences between the DSi XL and the DS and 3DS that followed later on, and how the pictures are displayed and how the pixels are arranged. It's technically very interesting. And overall, I'm very pleased to have it. It gives me a few more options, which is never a bad thing. So those were the various things that arrived in the mail, but I'm now coming to the really, really important item. And you will have noticed that in this week's weekly chat, I used one of Ray's beautiful drawings, and I have to confess it was a bit of a teaser image because I didn't say exactly what it was. Many of you identified it correctly, but I'm now revealing it's leading up to this whole showing of my latest Vita, and I really think this is the pinnacle and will be the last one to go into my collection of Vitas. I do have a purpose for each and every one of my Vitas. They're not sitting around idly or anything. Oh no. I decided, with us not being able to travel to Japan this year, sadly, I didn't want to wait before it maybe got too difficult to get the special edition SaGa Scarlet Grace of the Vita, the Japanese Vita. I have known that I wanted this one for a very long time because I've become a really big SaGa fan. I know it's a very niche series, but hey, I'm niche myself, I guess. This is the Scarlet Grace edition, and it just houses an otherwise normal box for a metallic red Vita. But the thing about the Vita is that it is a beautiful metallic red, but it is in fact a matte finish, and I do love the matte finish. It looks very classy, and the great thing is it doesn't leave any smudgy thumbprints. Because I'm a bit fussy, I find that really attractive. Now, the big thing is on the back side, of course. On the reverse side, we have the special illustration for the SaGa Scarlet Grace game. And that's the special edition. I'll just switch it on and show you. And that's, of course, the game itself. And here's the game, a Japanese edition. It was never made available physically in the West, not surprisingly, I suppose. But it is available on the PS4 in English, and that's where I'm playing it at the moment. and my hope is that having played it once in English, I should be able to sort of find my way through it in the Japanese edition. I thought it'd be really, really cool to be able to play it on the Vita. That'd be just lovely. So these were my latest goodies I just wanted to share with you, and we'll now move into the serious part of the video today. I've already been talking with you all on the community tab about the recent news, which has not been officially confirmed as yet by Sony. They may not do it at all and just simply go ahead, I suppose. But I think there's very little doubt in anybody's mind by now that Sony is going ahead with disabling access to PS3, Vita and PSP games, what they call the legacy consoles, on the web store and the mobile store. What does that mean? It means that if you like to visit the PlayStation Store, PSN, on your computer in a browser or on your phone in a browser, you will be able to see and purchase and arrange download for PS4 games and in the future for PS5 games, but the older console games will not be there anymore. You will have to rely on your download list for any games that you have previously purchased for those legacy consoles. You will still be able to use the store on your Vita or on your PS3. So I'll just go into the store. This one here I'll be using is the UK store. And I'll show you in a moment how you can access your stuff there. Most of you will know that anyway. A lot of people said, what is all the fuss about? Okay, you can't find your games and buy them anymore on your PC or on your phone, but you've still got your Vita. And if you still have a PS3, you can still access the store there, find your games, buy them and download them. Correct. Technically, yes. Theoretically, yes. But there's a lot of provisos around there. There are a lot of kinks in that argument, and I will go through those now because I want you all to be prepared and well organized so that you're not accidentally missing out on something, whether it's downloading or backing up. So we'll go through the whole process, make sure that you're well informed. As far as I'm informed, that's all I can do, but I think I've got a handle on things. I've made copious notes, so I'll just check that I don't forget anything. So just to reiterate very briefly, the Vita store, and that's this one here, is staying. It's open, you can go to it and do your usual thing. Look at games, purchase digital games, download them from there. This is the UK store. Your North American store will look slightly different. My New Zealand store looks almost identical to the UK one. So, to reiterate, you can still access your Vita store on your Vita, but you will not be able to purchase and download games from your PC. Many people have done it like that and preferred it, because the Vita store, as you may have noticed, has over the last few years not been well maintained, and there have been a lot of errors there, and I'll go into that in a moment in more detail. I thought it might be useful to look back in history a bit, because we've got another handheld device Sony made that we can compare it with, and that's the PSP, which came out in North America in March 2005, and the storefront for the PSP closed down in March 2016. That's what my research told me anyway. Sony organized it this way. After March the 15th, that was 2016, users in the Sony Computer Entertainment America regions will no longer be able to purchase or download content by accessing the PlayStation Store on their PSPs. This change doesn't mean your handheld will be useless. All your past purchases will be available to download from the download list, and you'll still be able to buy PSP content through the web store, as well as a limited selection via the Vita store. So I find this very interesting because Sony did it back then exactly the other way round. After 10 years or so, when the PSP was retired and became legacy, they basically then closed down the store on the PSP, but kept the web store going, and in a way that was, I think, a good decision, because it means it gives the widest possible access. People could just go online on their PC or other devices and manage their account, and if they wanted to, maybe purchase another PSP game or organize their downloads. This time round, Sony is doing it exactly the other way round. They're disabling the features for the Vita and the PSP and PS3 on the web store and saying, you're still left with the Vita store. What's wrong with that? Well, there is a lot wrong with that. If the Vita store had been properly maintained and updated, we wouldn't be having this discussion. But as many of you will have noticed, probably over the years, I would say since about 2015, Sony has been sluggish in updating the Vita store. We often don't see new games arriving, and I'll just demonstrate this. So there's a tab called Latest, and that supposedly lists all the Vita games that were recently added to the store. Well, you can see it looks pretty outdated, and a lot of games that were recently released are not listed there. So for anyone who just occasionally visits their Vita store and thinks, well, that's it, they look at it and say, okay, there were no more games published since June. It gives a completely misleading picture. Additionally, people have had problems finding games. Sometimes you use the search function, and most of the time it gives an accurate result, but not 100% of the time. The web store is more accurate and more reliable in that respect, and that is why most Vita users resorted to using the web store, because it saved us a lot of hassle of trying to find something and not finding it on the Vita store. The only reason why the Vita store is absolutely crucial now is the download list. And that's available, as you know, in that little bubble down in the bottom right-hand corner. So if you click on that, you get your download list, and that's where your games are listed, and from there you can download them. The good thing is that once you've bought a game, it will be in that download list, even if the game subsequently gets delisted, which means they take it off the store and you cannot buy it anymore. But if you've purchased it in the past, it should be in your download list and you will still be able to download it from there. Now that is really, really important, and as long as Sony and PlayStation do not stuff up that function, at least that is our safety, our protection mechanism, I suppose. I've had quite a few questions that cropped up, especially on the community tab. So I'll just pick out the ones that I found really interesting and important. One subscriber, Highwind, hello, asked what happens to PS Plus games. A good question. You shouldn't have to worry about those, because as long as you have the PS Plus subscription, you technically have a license for that digital game. As you know, digital games are all about licensing. You don't own the game, you have a license to use it and to play it. So as long as you have a current active subscription, your PS Plus games should still be available in your download list. Another question was what happens to cross-buy games? Well, I don't know the answer, but it should technically be very straightforward, because most of the time they're cross-buy between PS4 and Vita. And as long as the PS4 store is up and running and they list all the PS4 games, they will have to include the cross-buy games. I can't see any other way, and I would expect that that would continue. So, fingers crossed, cross-buy games should be fine and easier to access as well, because we should just be able to do that via the PS4 store. I have one piece of bad news, and that is there are likely to be no more significant sales on the Vita, I think. Now, I don't have a crystal ball, but developers are not able anymore to tick their own games for going into a sale. Sony has removed that ability from their admin panel, so they have no control anymore over their own game going discounted into a sale or not. So this is now completely at Sony's behest, and they have shown very little inclination to give us sales on the Vita. They may, of course, decide at some point, maybe before they pull the plug entirely, I don't know, to have a big festive Vita sale. It's possible, but I wouldn't bank on it. That's what I'm saying. If there's a game you really, really want, and you want to make sure you get it, and you don't find suddenly one day it's been delisted and it's gone, if you can afford it, I would say grab it now. That's what I'm doing. That's why I set up an account, a UK account, so I can get a few games which are not available on my New Zealand PlayStation, so that I can have them on the Vita. I'm not pressing my luck and waiting for any substantial sales to arrive. So I've talked before about the problems we are having with some of the games not appearing on the Vita or being difficult to find. One such game I'm hearing about is a Romancing Saga game, and that is Romancing Saga 3. It depends on the region you're in, but some regions have reported they literally do not have the game, so not on the Vita store. So please, if you want it, go and check on your PC or on your phone, check the web store and see if it's listed there and whether you want to grab it. There are no guarantees how long these games will be available for. We've had a lot of instances over the last year or two where Vita games were suddenly, overnight, without any warning, were delisted, just taken off the server and were gone. usually due to some licensing issues, sometimes over music, who knows. They were gone. I remember one famous incident because I was planning on buying Digimon Story Cyber Sleuth, and I thought, oh, I'll do it tomorrow, I'm tired tonight, and guess what? The next morning it was gone, completely gone. You could not buy it anymore for the Vita. These things happen, unfortunately. So at the moment, Romancing Saga 2 and 3 should still be available, but possibly only via your web store. You may not find one or both of the games on the Vita store. So just a heads up, in case you become attached to the Romancing Saga series, as I did. I recently had an interesting discussion with subscriber Lonewise. He pointed out that he could not get the PS1 games, Blood Omen, Legacy of Kain, and the sequel, Legacy of Kain Soul Reaver. He couldn't get it on his United States Vita store. I had a quick look myself and I thought, it is available in the UK on the Vita store, and I very, very quickly bought them and downloaded them. But in the United States, it's more problematic. The game is available, but in a roundabout way. You can only get it on the PS3. If you still have a PS3, I'd say keep it going because it's so jolly useful. I use my PS3 for lots of Vita-related things, and I'll explain that now. You will see that I have these little bubbles sitting there, and they are install files for Vita games. I have a lot here, trust me. I probably have well over 200 sitting here on my PS3 hard drive. This is one method, one easy method of backing up your Vita games. If you still have a PS3, of course, most people got rid of their PS3 when they migrated to the PS4, but some people hang on to it, even if it's just sitting in a closet somewhere. Please hang on to it. I'm finding it an incredibly easy method of backing up my Vita games. You can download it straight from the PS3 store, and the install file will sit happily there until you may want to transfer it to your Vita, in which case you only have to plug it in with your connecting cable and download the install file. In the United States, I know of a few cases where games, usually PS1 games, are not directly available for the Vita. However, if you can download the game to your PS3, you should be able to transfer it to your Vita. I know that is one roundabout way that some people are managing to get games onto their Vita. There is no reason why a game like Blood Omen can't run on the Vita. Okay, we don't have L2 and R2, but those are easily implemented on the touch screen. I think it should work, and you should be able to get Blood Omen that way, but the proviso is you need a PS3, and that and the Vita need to be under the same account. Oh, the last one I want to mention is Utawada Rumono. Is a series that I am very fond of. They are a combination of a visual novel and a tactics game. Very interesting. You might know the anime, which is very good. I've heard now the Mask of Deception and Mask of Truth are usually available without any problem on the Vita, but I have heard accounts that the more recent game, Prelude to the Fallen, while easily available on the PS4, can be tricky to find on the Vita store. It is available both in the UK and New Zealand. I haven't had any problems tracking it down there, but you need to use the search function. And that's very important. You cannot rely on the PS Vita listings. I'll just quickly show you what I mean. And that's what I mean, the alphabetical listing of PS Vita games. This is where Sony and PlayStation have not kept up properly. There is a lot missing in that alphabetical list. And if you just rely on that, you're missing out on certain games. So please do use the search function, and often you will find something that way that is not listed in that particular Vita games alphabetical list. And that includes Prelude to the Fallen. If that fails to, then check your web store in a browser. Please remember, for backing up purposes, that patches and updates, even for physical games, of course, still need to be available, and we need the Vita store and the server to continue operating for that, because otherwise, as you well know nowadays, some games will not run without the most recent update. So that's another thing to watch out for. So if you can save up any of those, back up any of those particular files, but that's getting into nightmare territory. I haven't done it yet. I hope we will have enough time, like at least 1 or 2 years, to do all that stuff. I don't think Sony will pull the plug on the Vita store, not in the short term. I don't really see that happening, but it will happen at some point in the future. I promise this is the last topic. Poodle Pie is wilting. I need to finish soon. How to back up your Vita games. There is a really nice, very easy to follow video that Sandeep, Too Old for Gaming, has done. Link is in the description below, and that will tell you how to do it on your PC or laptop. Very straightforward to do. And I've shown you already the PS3 backup method. So those are the two that I know of and that I find to be good and reliable. So please back up your Vita games. I will also have some more information in the description below about an absolutely wonderful archive that one of our Vita Island stalwarts is putting up, listing all the games for each regional store, so that you have a way of checking what should be available where. I hope this will prove to be a useful resource for everybody. Thank you so much for hanging in there and watching all this. Please keep well. I'm Food for Dogs. Bye-bye.